and welcome back to the Bitch in My Brain podcast. My name is Josie. It is officially April 1st. We have made it to spring. I know that we've technically already made it to spring on March 20th, I think it was, but I really view April as the start of spring. It just, when I picture the month, it's like rain and flowers and all the great things. So I'm so excited for spring to be here because I'm freaking tired of the cold. I am not a fall winter girl. I'm a huge summer girl. That's when I thrive. But fall and winter, I want nothing to do with it. Like nothing at all. Walking miso is just the bane of my existence when it's freezing out. And I'm just ready to walk out in, sweatpants and a tank top and some Birkenstocks and take him on a walk. Like that is my dream sort of walk. But another reason, besides miso, besides it being cold, I love spring because it just feels like a fresh start. I get this kind of motivation to sort things out, get organized. I'm wanting to kind of clean my slate and just start fresh. And I know that obviously we can do that at New Year's, but there's something about spring that kind of gives me a little bit of a pep in my step. And yeah, I'm just ready to get to work, cleaning shit out, letting stuff go, all of that jazz. However, there are a few items on the spring list that I have been needing to take care of. And I realized that majority of these things have been on this spring to-do list for like years. And I'm kind of sick of it. I'm sick of looking at the same task that I've been putting off. And I'm asking myself, I'm like, why do I keep doing this shit? Like, what is getting in the way? Why can't I figure it out? This has obviously been a process for me. My lists are getting cleaner, but that is because I have really taken a deeper look at the reasoning and the why behind what I'm not getting done. And it was really, really transformational when I was inside the Life Coaching Academy because I was able to identify the why. And it wasn't rooted in laziness or anything like that. It was rooted in something a lot deeper. And it's so crazy to think that some unfinished to-do list items can be on a deep level. But honestly, it is the truth. So in this week's episode, let's talk about it. Let's dive deep into the world of unfinished business. So a lot of the inaction we take is rooted in our past. Just like everything, I've said this a million times. Majority is rooted in our past. And so being that it's in our past, it's really hard to create change or clean things up when we have things from our past weighing us down. And that is why it is so necessary for us to go in and find the deeper meaning so we can clean it up and take that weight that we're carrying off our back so we can move forward in a light and airy and peaceful way. So the things that are holding us back, we call incompletions. And essentially an incompletion is unfinished business. So it is actions that we have taken in the past that create a barrier to the future or to move us along on the path that we essentially want to go. So basically, like I just said, it's unfinished business, neglected responsibilities, half-baked projects, anything in your life that is incomplete or has not been finished, which I guess is the same thing as incomplete. So sorry for the repetition in some of these words. Incompletions, and this is really important to note, they happen on both an external level and an internal level. So on an external level, these may show up as clutter or old files, undone to-do lists. So kind of things like that where they're just kind of static, stuck, all of that. And then we also have incompletions that show up on an internal level. And these show up as feelings or emotions. So whether that be holding grudges or resentment or shame, all of those kind of negative feelings are essentially incompletions on an internal level. And the bitch in our brain loves our internal incompletions because she can use those to beat ourselves up. We feel shame, we feel guilt when we have these things kind of lingering around us. We feel mad at ourselves. There's all these emotions that come up. And honestly, it's exhausting as well. We're, putting all our energy and really feeding into these negative conversations. But what we need to realize with both these external and internal incompletions is they are very much intertwined. And our external world is usually a reflection, is honestly not even usually, is kind of a direct reflection of our internal world. So if we're feeling chaos and clutter on an external level, then we probably are feeling some chaos and clutter on an internal level. And so there's this kind of cause and effect happening, and they're playing off each other, which is why it gets so messy, and which is why it feels so hard to take action some of these times, because there's two things that are happening. We're seeing it on a physical level, and we're also feeling it on an emotional level. And ultimately, that can really keep us stuck in our ways. So kind of an example about how our external life can be impacted by our internal life is, I'll use an example that's as simple as cleaning out my closet, which is something that I had put off forever. And I would always say, I need to, minimalize my closet. I want to, just keep the basics. However, every time that I went to go through my closet, through all the clothes, I would feel paralyzed, and I would catch myself having a death grip on certain pieces of clothes. And I really noticed this around the clothes that I have had since my senior year of high school. And none of these clothes fit. They're not my style at all anymore, but I couldn't get rid of them. So I had to take, a deeper look, and I asked myself, why am I so avoidant to getting rid of these clothes? Why am I so attached to them? And I realized it's not about the clothes at all. The emotion that came up, or the thought that came up, was actually one rooted in loss. And I knew on a deep level that it wasn't the loss of clothes. Like, I wasn't attached to the stuff. But what I realized is I felt that I would be losing my past self, which is, a little crazy to think, but it felt so right once I had that aha, because the version of me that dressed like that, I'm sure some of you guys who know me remember from high school, I, wore oversized t-shirts, high socks, and a pair of 5-layer moccasins. So I was definitely in like my hippie stoner era. And I'm really connected to this version of me because I feel as though that was the first time that I really moved in the direction of my authenticity. Because the early years of high school, I, tried to dress like everyone else and do what everyone else was doing. And my senior year of high school, I really kind of cut all ties to that and, started doing my own thing. And so I have a lot of love for that version of me because she really kicked things off. So giving away these clothes, it made me scared that I would be abandoning that version or I would lose that version of myself. And once I had that data, that feeling of loss of my previous self, I was able to kind of reframe the situation or look at it from a different perspective, that the version of me that I love, the past version of me, is still connected to me, and it's not connected to me through material objects. I have photos. I have deep core memories. I did keep my 5-layer moccasins because they're just iconic. But overall, I was able to clear out a lot of the clothes that I had a death grip on because I was able to release that feeling of loss or abandonment and replace it with an inner knowing that I am still connected to that version of me, and I don't need the unnecessary things to tap into her. So it's kind of funny when you put it in, the context. It just fascinates me that something as simple as not being able to clean out a closet is linked to my grip on the past. I think it's funny. I think it's just, fascinating. And it does make me feel a little bit better that it's not just me being lazy. There are aspects of that, I come up with some pretty good excuses. But that there's something that is actually holding me back on an emotional and spiritual level, and it releases the guilt. And it's kind of as simple as that. It just releases the negativity around our incompletions. But, it's easier said than done because a lot of us don't want to look at our incompletions on an internal level because they elicit a lot of emotions. They elicit that shame, the guilt, the feeling not good enough or productive enough. But the nice thing about these emotions that they bring out is they're data. They are indicators that tell us what needs to be addressed or what's holding us back. So really pay attention to how you're feeling around the actions that you have been avoiding, neglecting, procrastinating on. Because ultimately, by you looking at those, you're going to move in the direction you want and start, checking some shit off the list. And another thing to note, which is important as well, is that our incompletions are at the root of our self-sabotage. So these things we're avoiding and neglecting and these emotions that we're afraid to really take a deeper look at, they're creating barriers for us in the future. They can, drag down our self-esteem and overall just have kind of a negative impact on our life. So that is why it's so important to address these incompletions, because without it, you're either going to stay stuck or you're going to head in the wrong direction. And we don't want that. We want to move in the right direction because movement creates possibility, it creates momentum, and ultimately leads to freedom. So I thought that I would share a little exercise with you guys on how to really begin identifying the incompletions in your life, as well as how to kind of process them both externally and internally. So if you have like a pen and paper, notes app, feel free to jot it down or, return to this episode when you're able to really take the time to go inward, because I think this will be really helpful. It was instrumental, for me, especially figuring out something like the closet. I probably would have never really brought the two together if I didn't do this exercise. So I am excited to give it to you. So the first thing that I want you to ask yourself is, where in your life do you feel the most weighed down? So what area of your life, that could be relationships, money, career, health, what is weighing you down the most? And then I want you to identify the incompletions in this area. So, for example, if I chose money, A incompletion in this area could be, I've been avoiding doing a budget or avoiding looking at my bank statements. Next, I want you to identify what excuses you use in this area of your life or to avoid these incompletions or taking care of these incompletions rather. So I'll just use the money example throughout the whole exercise. So an excuse that you could make is, I don't have time to go through the budget, or it's too much work. So those kind of excuses that keep you from taking care of business. And then this next one is really focused on your internal world. This is where I want you to really tap in on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, so you can get the clarity that you need around this question. And that question is, what are you afraid will happen if you clean up this incompletion? So in the context of money, if you're an overspender, you might be afraid that you'll have to change your lifestyle to get back on track. And as we all know, that can be very intimidating because a lot of us have lived our lives in a very comfortable way. So the idea of having to completely switch up your life in some areas, so, you can't go to the bars anymore, you can't go to the movies, you're, grocery shopping on a budget, all of these things that will have to shift in your life, it can be scary. And so it is a valid fear, but it's important to address. So really ask yourself, what are you afraid will happen if you clean up this incompletion? And then the next one is, what will be possible when you take care or clean up this incompletion? What will be available to you? So if you were to cut down on your spending, you could begin to put that money that you had been overspending into a savings account where you can use it to do the stuff that you want. So if you're really wanting to travel, but you keep overspending, so you don't have that capability, you can put that money in a savings account and use it in the correct way to go travel across the world or go do what you want. And so you want to kind of inspire yourself by saying, what will be possible when I take care of this? What will be available to me, and how can my life essentially improve by getting rid of this? So those are kind of the questions that I'd like you to ask yourself, and really be intentional with the time. Really take your time, because you want to get to the root. A lot of us will stay at that surface level, and that's not how we get shit done. That is not how we clean things up. It's coming from an internal world, and like I said, our internal world reflects our external world. So if we work on them together, hell, it'll take less time and it's going to be more effective. So really take the time to go through those questions. And then the final thing is holding yourself accountable. So choosing a small action step that can move you in the direction you want to go so you can, get shit done. And they can be, simple things as well. So your action step might be to create a budget, or once you have that budget created, then you can hold yourself accountable to every Sunday taking a look at your budget, uploading what you've spent or updating how much you've made. Just a step in the right direction so you can begin to get back on track. Simple as that. So yay, I hope that you'll do that exercise and, tell me how it goes, and have a fun week spring cleaning your life. Honestly, that's what we're doing. We are spring cleaning our life, and what a beautiful thing to be able to do. So I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this episode spoke to you, and I can't wait to continue to share so much more. If you're feeling called, please subscribe and leave a review. so together we can reach even more women who deserve to live their best life. And you can follow me on social at The Bitch in My Brain as I share my journey and life in real time. I can't wait to see you bitches next week. Take care.